He sat there, dead silent. The buzzing of the overhead light was the only sound in the room. His hands were shaking, but his face was stone. 17 years old, wearing the same hoodie he'd had on for 3 days straight. Across the glass door, his mother was crumpled in a chair, crying so hard she couldn't breathe. You could tell that cry wasn't from just tonight. That was the kind of cry that had years behind it. And he didn't look at her once. Now, if someone walked in right then, they'd see just another messed-up kid in trouble. Cops called, charges pending, same old story. Must have come from a bad family, they'd probably say. Or he was just born like that. You know how people are. So quick to label, so quick to assume they know your whole story from one snapshot. But this didn't start here. His name was Malik, and once upon a time, not that long ago, he was the kind of kid who asked a million questions about everything. Bright eyes, big heart, curious about stars, animals, why trees change colors in the fall. He loved those How Things Work videos on YouTube. Built a mini volcano for a school project in 3rd grade. Won first place. His mom still had the certificate, tucked in a drawer somewhere. But life didn't care about his spark. His dad left when he was 8. Just bounced. No explanation. No goodbye. 1 minute they were playing catch, and the next the guy was a ghost. And Malik, he waited. Weeks, months. Every time a car door slammed outside, he'd look out the window, hoping it was him. Eventually, he stopped looking. By middle school, teachers started giving up on him, too. He talked back, got into fights, skipped homework. Nobody asked why. They just stamped him. Defiant, disruptive, troublemaker. And once you get a label like that, it sticks. Doesn't matter how smart you are, people stop seeing the kid, they only see the problem. And when people start treating you like a lost cause, it's weird how fast you start living like one. That's what happened to Malik. He stopped raising his hand in class, stopped showing up to class, started hanging out with kids who didn't care about anything, 'cause that felt easier than caring and getting let down again. He got caught stealing once, just a candy bar. The store owner grabbed his arm and said, "You kids never learn." Malik didn't even fight it. He just laughed. Like, yeah, maybe he was that kind of kid now. And here's the thing nobody tells you. It doesn't happen all at once. You don't just wake up one day and say, "I think I'm gonna ruin my life." It's little decisions, little lies you start telling yourself. It's not really my fault. This is just the way I am. People expect me to mess up, so why disappoint them? But maybe the biggest lie, the one that quietly poisons everything, is this one. Life just happens to me. I don't get to choose. That's the one that got Malik. And now here he was. Cold metal chair, fluorescent lights, officers outside the door, his mom still crying. Not because she was shocked, but because deep down she knew this day was coming. Everyone had seen it, like a train heading straight for a wall, and nobody knew how to stop it. Except Malik. Only, he didn't know that yet. You're watching Tales of Wisdom. I'm David, and this story, it's going to take you somewhere. Somewhere raw, real, and uncomfortable. Because it's not about fate. It's not about bad luck. It's about that tiny, almost invisible moment when someone realizes maybe the problem isn't out there. Maybe it's in the mirror. If you've ever blamed life or felt like you were just stuck in a script someone else wrote, this story is for you. Subscribe if you haven't already, and drop a comment if this already hit you a little too hard. We're just getting started. He remembered the heat first. That sticky, unforgiving kind of heat that makes your shirt cling to your back and your patience evaporate in minutes. He was 12, maybe 11 and a half, and already cursing under his breath as his grandma dragged him up a long, winding trail to meet some monk she swore could fix his head. Her words, not his. I don't need fixing, he grumbled. You need listening, she shot back without looking. And not to me, to someone wiser than both of us. He rolled his eyes so hard it almost gave him a headache. The trail was uphill, his shoes were cheap, his feet hurt. His grandma had packed apples and boiled eggs like this was some kind of spiritual picnic. He didn't want to be there, didn't care about some old guy with beads and a beard sitting in a shack on a rock. He wanted to be home, on his cracked phone, mindlessly scrolling TikTok like every other kid. But there they were, hours later, standing in front of a hut that looked like it belonged in a cartoon. Clay walls, wooden door, wind chimes made from spoons. And the monk, he was exactly what Malik expected. Old, bald, with deep lines in his face that made him look like he knew too much and talked too little. Except, he didn't look tired or sad. He looked like he saw people, like really saw them. Come, the monk said, and turned around before Malik could even pretend to resist. They sat on a straw mat. Malik was fidgeting, tapping his fingers on his knees. The monk didn't ask him what he did wrong, didn't ask about his grades, didn't say the usual, "You have so much potential" speech. Instead, he said, "Let me tell you a story." Great. A story. Malik could barely fake a polite face. There were once two boys, the monk began, his voice calm but clear. Mischievous, clever. They liked playing tricks, even on people who didn't deserve them. Malik smirked a little. Sounded familiar. One day they caught a tiny bird, a sparrow, and they said, "Let's fool the monk." So they went to him, hiding the bird in one boy's hands. "Is the bird alive or dead?" they asked. Their plan was simple. If the monk said alive, they would crush the bird and prove him wrong. If he said dead, they would let it fly away. Either way, they win. Malik squinted. He knew this kind of riddle. There had to be a catch. The monk looked at them, the old man continued, and simply said, "As you would have it, my boys." That was it. That was the punchline. The monk in the story smiled, walked away. End of lesson. Malik blinked. Wait, what? That's the whole thing? The monk sitting across from him just nodded, hands resting on his lap like it was the most obvious thing in the world. Malik stared. But he didn't even answer. That's cheating. The monk chuckled. He did answer. Just not the way they expected. Malik leaned back. So, what? The point is that the kids had the power the whole time, that they were just trying to pass it off, like it was the monk's responsibility. You tell me, the monk said. Isn't that what most people do? Malik didn't respond. He felt weird, not inspired, just kind of confused, irritated even. It felt like one of those stories that adults think is deep, but really it's just vague enough to sound smart. On the way down the mountain, his grandma asked what the monk told him. Malik shrugged. Some bird riddle, I don't know, didn't really make sense. She gave him that grandma look, the one that says she knows he's lying and doesn't care enough to argue. It'll make sense someday, she said softly. Maybe when it needs to. But Malik didn't believe that. He filed the story away under pointless stuff adults say, like, enjoy being young, or you'll miss school when it's gone. Yeah, right. He went back to school, got in trouble again, got suspended for fighting, and eventually, he forgot all about the monk. But the thing is, lessons don't always land when they're told. Sometimes they wait, sometimes they hide, and sometimes they come back exactly when you need them most. It didn't happen overnight. That's the part no one ever talks about. There wasn't some big explosion or dramatic moment when Malik snapped and became a bad kid. Nah, it was more like a slow leak. One little choice at a time. First, he started skipping school. Just here and there. A Friday, a Monday, A test day. He told himself it didn't matter. Nobody cared if he was there anyway. His teachers had already checked out. Most of them talked at him, not to him. He'd sit in the back with his hoodie up, earbuds in, zoning out while they droned on about things he knew he'd never use. Then came the little thefts. A phone charger from Walmart, a snapback hat from the mall. At first it felt thrilling, like he was taking something back from a world that always took from him. Nobody ever gives you anything when you're broke. So Malik took. Not because he needed stuff, but because it made him feel like he could. His friends, if you could call them that, were just like him. Drifting, angry, smiling too hard to cover the emptiness. They'd meet behind gas stations, light blunts with stolen lighters, and talk big about how life screwed them all. Everyone had a story. Absent dads, broke moms, evictions, fights, all of them trying to be hard because soft didn't survive. That's when Malik started telling the monk story, but not the way it was meant. One night, they were sitting on the basketball court, half buzzed, waiting for the lights to shut off. One of the guys, Jameer, was going off about how his PO was breathing down his neck again. "Man, it don't matter what I do. They already decided what I am." Malik laughed and shook his head. "You ever hear that bird story?" he said, almost mocking himself. Jameer looked at him. "What bird?" Blue and red lights painted the pavement as the cops slammed the car door shut. Malik's wrists burned from the cuffs. This time it wasn't a slap on the wrist. It was serious. Felony serious. Breaking and entering. He hadn't even wanted to do it. He just didn't say no. That was his crime. Silence. Court dates followed. His public defender barely looked up from the paperwork. His mom. She didn't yell. She didn't even speak. She just sat there, crushed, like something in her had finally given out. That night in the holding cell, with nothing but a metal bench and flickering light above, Malik finally sat with it. Not the noise, not the blame. The truth. Nobody forced him here. Not the system. Not his friends. Not his dad, not poverty, not bad luck. It was him. He saw that monk in his head, clearer than ever. That voice, calm and certain. "As you would have it, my boy." And it hit like a punch to the chest. He was the one who crushed the bird. He was the one who let it die. All this time, the cage he was trapped in. He built it, brick by brick, choice by choice. Probation felt like walking through mud, slow, heavy, and like everyone's watching, waiting for you to slip. Malik got out, but it didn't feel like freedom. He didn't get balloons or second chances. Just cold stares, old friends ghosting him, and job applications that magically disappeared after they saw his record. But this time, he didn't fold. He got a job washing dishes at a diner downtown. The kind of work nobody notices unless you screw it up. Hot steam, grease burns, managers who barely said thank you. But he showed up. Every shift. On time. At night he studied. GED books with coffee stains, videos on how to fix cars. Sometimes he'd fall asleep in his hoodie with his face in a textbook, alarm still buzzing from the hour before. Nobody was clapping. Nobody said, "I'm proud of you." But he kept going, because now every time he wanted to quit, that stupid story came back. The bird, the monk, the choice. The bird is in your hands. It wasn't just a metaphor anymore. It was a weight he could feel, not a burden, but a responsibility, a second chance. He knew he could still crush it, could still mess it all up. But this time he didn't want to. He was holding the bird gently now, protecting it, day by day. And for the first time in a long time, he started to believe maybe he could let it fly. Years passed. The noise faded. Malik didn't become famous. He didn't go viral or write some best-selling redemption memoir. He just rebuilt piece by piece. He earned his GED, became a mechanic, started volunteering at a youth center on weekends. Quiet stuff. Real stuff. One fall afternoon, he found himself back on that same mountain trail, older now, beard coming in, legs aching just like before. Only this time, he climbed it alone. The hut looked smaller. The wind chimes were gone. The monk, they said, had passed a year earlier. But Malik sat on that same straw mat, just like when he was 12, and closed his eyes. He whispered, "As you would have it, my boy." Not bitter, not sarcastic, just thankful. Back at the center, he started telling the kids the bird story. Not with the eye roll or the mocking tone, but with clarity, like he needed them to understand it. Not because it was clever, but because it was true. The bird's in your hands, he'd say. Doesn't matter what they did to you. Doesn't matter what you've done. You still get to choose what happens next. Some rolled their eyes, just like he once did. But some listened, and when one of them asked, "What if it's already too late?" Malik smiled, that same quiet smile the monk gave him years ago. "It's not. You're holding the bird right now, and it's still breathing." He looked around at these kids, these broken, brilliant souls just like he once was, and finally, he said it out loud, not to them, but to himself. The bird was never in someone else's hands, it was mine. It always was.